Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hollywood Morgue podcast. How's everybody doing today? It's a lovely day. It's cold outside because it's wintertime. That's why it's cold outside. But anyway, I don't have Doc with me today. As you can tell, I have my good friend, Thrash or Bleach. I think so. Anyway, so you're going to have him on today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh well, I just want to say, ladies, just one at a time, please. I know this is striking. I know it's very surprising that I'm on the podcast already. This is the second episode of season 2, and it's insane that I'm already here. I
Yeah,
never thought the day would come.
yeah. And you baloney. Is that your whole image is baloney?
I would have chose salami, but bologna was all I had on me.
Okay. Okay. Oh, one at a time, ladies.
One at a time.
One at a time. But yeah, it's awesome to have you on the show. We've been talking about it for a long time, but you've been very busy. I know with school and stuff. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I don't really do much, but I do like music. I'm a really big music fan. Really big. Well, not really big, but pretty big horror movie fan. Pretty casual. Not really the type of guy to go out of my way to see some underground film from, I don't know, Finland or something like that. But
Right.
if it's popular, I've probably seen it. If not, well, excuse me. But I think I'm well versed enough to get on a podcast and talk about it. I may mess up here and there, but I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah. It will be fun. And that's why I wore my. I know he's a big music guy, so that's why I wore my Marilyn Manson shirt. Not to be controversial. Yeah, I know. Oh, he hates Marilyn Manson, but I like him. Uh, but before we get into all that stuff, talk about the movies, talk about 80s horror. If you guys couldn't read from the title, but yeah, we're gonna talk about 80s horror and stuff like that. Before we get into that, I want to talk about a actor who has sadly passed on. A man named Lee Strasberg was a actor in the early years of movies. He did movies like The Godfather. Um, he did a lot of old classic movies, probably some you never even heard of. He lived to be 80 years old. He died on this day. He was 80 years old. Long life in the movies. So you'll be remembered for your contributions to the art, and we hope you're doing okay. Or if you're not okay up there, we hope you're doing okay down there. So, but anyway, let's get on to the video. 80s horror. What's your thoughts about 80s horror?
Well, when I always think of horror, my immediately goes to like the big two of 80s horror, and everybody always associates them with Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. They all, it's like, which is better, and that's who I think of. I think of Freddy and Jason.
Yeah,
And
and that's a good. Oh, sorry.
you go ahead.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a good assessment of 80s horror. It's you have this mass killer who's stalking around a campground. As people are scared to go into the woods, and that started the 80s. That came out in 1980, as a matter of fact. And then you have Freddy, who is more of a surreal, supernatural being, and was you weren't even safe in your dreams in your own home. And yeah, both on opposite ends of the spectrum, but somehow collided and became one of the most iconic pairings, duos of all time, with Freddy versus Jason years later. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
And what else?
I have to completely agree. I do want to touch on the fact about how they've aged, and I know not everything has aged very well, but for the time
Yeah,
being, at 1980, it was like really scary. Like I'm not exactly sure when A Nightmare on Elm Street came out, the first one, but I remember. Well, I don't remember anything because I wasn't alive during then, but I've
yeah,
heard from a lot of people that it was really scary at the time, and it
85, I think.
was 85.
Yeah, I think it was
Even
85.
I
When
mean,
I
like
think
there wasn't really anything like that. I don't think like you can be like, oh, you can compare like this movie is like this. It was really truly one of a kind, and
yeah,
I think that's why it's made such an impact on the horror movie genre.
yeah. And before I even watched the movie, before I even knew Freddy Krueger was, I saw the face and I saw what he looked like and I saw the finger gloves and everything. And that was like as a kid going to Halloween stores. Because to be honest, when I was a kid, I didn't really like horror movies. I didn't get into it as much as I do now. I wasn't really big into movies. I was a scary cat as a little kid, and so I would go into when I finally got up the courage. I was probably about 11 or 12 when I went into my very first Halloween store. I know that sounds bad, but um, yeah, I was about 11 or 12, and I saw the finger gloves and I saw the mask and those masks. I don't know if you've been into very many Halloween stores, but what are your thoughts on the Freddy masks that they have at like Spirit Halloween and stuff like that?
I gotta be honest, they are god awful. They are absolutely smell terrible. They don't
They're
fit,
trash.
especially for us big heads. And
Oh yeah,
yeah, like there's no way we could get into one of those. And
best places to get masks like that is like Trick or Treat Studios. Those are the best places to get masks
yeah, I saw the
because
Michael
they
Myers
fit
one.
your form.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
And
pretty pricey to be honest.
yeah, masks are pretty pricey, but for the Freddy ones, I don't think there's ever gonna be a good Freddy mask ever because it makeup will always be better than a mask for him at least. I'm not gonna say like Michael Myers or anything like that because his is a mask, but uh,
Right.
yeah, there's nothing gonna be good for a Freddy mask, so I don't even really think about it as even an option if I wanted to dress up as him. But the gloves, I remember I was around 11 or 12, and I went into what was it? There's this place in Frisco, Texas called Party Station, right next to where my mom used to work, and it was like a couple days after Halloween, and I bought like the plastic Freddy gloves. I remember they were
Oh
like
yeah.
$11 because they were on discount. They were originally like $20 at the time, and I got them like for $11. So I used like I wore those out in public. Yeah, I wore those out in public
That's
just
kind of
because I
funny.
I was obsessed with Nightmare on Elm Street. I absolutely love the franchise. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And like I said, you think when you think of 80s horror, you think of like Freddy and Jason and everything. I think of makeup and special effects. That was probably the best time for 80s horror. Okay, when I say that, I mean like you see like the big budget ones, the ones that are on more like on a grander scale with movies like you have Alien and you have Predator. Those are more sci-fi, but also you have like Freddy, like the look of Freddy. I mean that's like iconic. And then you have other movies like Reanimator, where they have just things they take like hamburger meat, cover it in blood, and you throw it. It looks like entrails and stuff like that. So is the ingenuity of big makeup companies and everything, these effects, music. 80s music was the music for these movies was really popular too, and just the overall feeling. Because nothing feels like an 80s movie when somebody says, "Oh yeah, that's like a cheesy 80s movie." When they refer to like a newer movie, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's like those cheesy 80s movies." And so it's become its own. It's become its own symbol of the time, and it's stuck in the 80s. And that's what I like about it is that it's always going to be compared to the stuff like the Wrong Turn movies, even though they're modern. It's like, oh, it's just like 80s movies characters. So I think it's like it's so iconic that it's people use it as a more of an analogy for stuff. I'm sure if I'm using the right word for that, but um, it's become its own thing. If that makes any sense.
I completely agree, and I also want to add. I think about special effects more now than I did whenever I was younger, like 8 or 9, because I used to like get scared, and obviously they don't scare me anymore. So now like I'm just really attracted by effects. And I do want to bring up Hellraiser. Hellraiser, that movie, to me, was very eye opening to make me appreciate more special effects than ever. Really, I like the special effects in like the early Freddy movies were obviously all there, but I didn't really. It wasn't really like I didn't really pay attention to that because he was just scary. But this, it
Right.
was
Yeah.
like, yeah, and for the people who have seen Hellraiser, you obviously know about him. Like it was almost like kind of like watching The Fly, but instead he's turning into a human instead of a fly. Obviously, he's turning back into a human. So the
Right.
transformation scenes in that movie are really gross, but also like really lush to look at. Like it's actually very like eye pleasing and in like a weird, demented way. like you want to keep watching.
Yeah,
If that
but it
makes
looks
sense.
so real.
It
It
does
looks
for
so
time.
real. Yeah, for the time. Now the bad thing now is effects have grown, but people tend to use CGI, which back then they didn't have CGI, and everything. So with effects like blood, everybody knows what blood looks like. It's very dark. It's a very deep color, and it's not like red. Like in the 50s, they use like it almost looks like paint. Like it's like they took red
Chocolate syrup.
uh chalk with that. Yeah, they used chocolate syrup in Psycho, but like for 50s movies like Hammer films, like with Christopher Lee, who played, Dracula and stuff like that, they used, I don't know what it was, but if you ever say like the Crayola washable paint and you just put that on the side of your face, that's exactly what it looked like to me, at least. But even in the 80s, that's when the transition was, it was changing from that. Um, and in the 70s, it went from that stage blood, that, acrylic paint, to like real looking effects and everything. And with all the makeup and everything they did, with it looks like it was peeling off and everything. Uh, it was, I would say, groundbreaking. And with all the effects, the backwards effects, where in Hellraiser you see the guy being formed, and he's like, all the blood drips on him, and he's being formed into this person. That's like people taking a hair dryer and like melting the effects off of it, and so it's like played in reverse. So it looks like it's coming together when really it's being tearing down. And that's trick photography and stuff like that, and it just looks really cool. But yes, the
Yeah,
effects in that movie was fantastic.
but I think
Um,
we both know the actual like the holy grail of effects in one movie. The Thing. The Thing is insane. The effects.
yeah.
It's probably the most beautiful, like the best effects I've ever seen. Honestly.
Oh yeah. It's I can't remember who exactly the effects company is, and I know for somebody who talks like movies, I should be like, oh yeah, you should know that. But anyway, um, the specific effects company who did that, they wanted it to look realistic. Okay, realistic. Like the guy who gets his arms bit off, like they didn't CGI his arms out. Which right now, like now, they would just have somebody green screen their arm, and it's easy to do. An example for that is Mad Max Fury Road. If you ever seen that with Charlize Theron, they had to put a green cast on her arm, so it looks like she's missing her hand. But back then, they actually got an amputee. So the guy who was the doctor, who's gets his arms bit off. Spoiler alert, I guess. Sorry, but who gets his arms bit off? That's an actual amputee. The guy, he had his like moving his arms and everything, so it was an amputee. So they used what they had, and these people who have no arms, but they just put the effects over it. To me, the best effect is when you got the one hanging from the ceiling, or the not the one hanging from the ceiling. No, I'm thinking the guy where he gets his head, like his head is like being ripped off his body, and he's like laying on the table. The same guy who gets his chest broken in, you know, and
Yes.
his head comes off, and I'm like, damn, how did they do that? Did they just like rip it off with a string or something? Like, I still honestly don't know how they did that effect, but I'm sure they'll be like, oh yeah, it was super easy. But yeah, it's so iconic. It's like ingrained into your
Yeah.
head and
Especially
everything.
another spoiler alert, but the dog scene, like when all the dogs are in the cage, and then there's like the one imposter, uh,
Yeah.
and he starts, yeah, I'm not gonna see that, and that scene, the transformation scene, I don't remember. It's been since like October since I've seen the movie, so I forgot if he started attacking the other dogs, but from him melting from the flamethrower. That one's really one that stuck with me because I've always seen the guys and arms getting broken into and getting bitten off by the belly stomach, but
Yeah.
yeah, since I'm a animal lover, I don't know, that one really stuck with me the most. It's probably my favorite scene from the movie. That
Yeah. No,
when I
I think it's an interesting. It shows like the first thing that's like the scariest thing to begin with, because the movie up until that point is very slow, and it's like there's a lot of action at the beginning with the dog running across the field, and the guys get killed, and then it's very slow, and then you just see this dog's face just split open, and it's just like, whoa, what the hell? That came out of nowhere, you know, and it's kind of like a whoa scene for that movie, and it is effective with all the puppets. And those are like puppets; those are real things, and you could definitely tell they're there. Like even in that scene where they find the alien or the two people who are kind of conjoined together when they're on the table and they peel back out. Like, people say that people actually felt nauseous. People felt sick seeing that together because the way it looked and everything, and people felt uncomfortable. And even though they know it's an effect, it has people feel like they're like, oh shit, it looks realistic, and they get a different feeling, and that's what they're trying to go for. And when people say they love dogs, they're like, oh, and they see the dog's face rip open, they're like, oh my god, they're traumatized for the rest of their life, and that's the best part. But yeah, 80s effects and makeup and everything is some of the best you got.
Another movie
Even
that I'd like to bring up is Evil Dead. The
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead 1, 2, and Army of Darkness. I think are like if they're the runner ups whenever I think of effects.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And another.
And there's like different. There's also different. A lot of history in those effects too, with like stop motion and everything. Like if you've seen Army of Darkness, well, I'm sure you have. There's the different effects, like the stop motion skeletons at the end of the movie, and then also you got all the mask effects. You have all the in-camera effects. Like one of the scenes, it didn't really scare me, but I was like, how do they do that? The effects where the guy's coming out of the mirror, he like sticks his hand in the mirror, and like Ash grabs him from there. I was like,
yeah.
how did they do that? Even though it's not really a gore effect, but I was like, what?
Yeah, and I think the same way about the one scene that I think embodies the whole Evil Dead trilogy is the scene from Evil Dead 2 whenever he's fighting with his own hand, Ash, in the kitchen, where he's getting beat up and he's beating up the other hand. And one part in particular is whenever his hand, I think, is like right next to the wall, and he flips Ash off. I think that embodies the whole Evil Dead experience whenever you're watching the movie, because it's also comical, but it's also really twisted and dark.
It's like the guy had to cut his hand off, and the hand's like, But yeah, that's a good. And Bruce Campbell and through the ringer, because he had like to do flips and stuff. He had to bash himself over the head with plates, and obviously he didn't cut his hand off. Although I think that would have made the character even better. But he really showed his full potential as an actor, being comedy wise, dramatic, and his whole physical capability in doing it. And Sam Raimi, who's the guy who directed Evil Dead, also directed Spider-Man. So we were just joking before we came on. There's a countdown timer before we go on here, and he's like, "I got you for 3 minutes." And I was like, "Oh man." I was like, "Yes, Sam Raimi horror. It all makes sense.
It all makes sense. It all comes back around to tight. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah." But those Evil Dead movies are fantastic. But the first one, I gotta admit, although the first one is good and it's effective in its own way, the effects in that movie, especially with the effects with that one girl, she becomes the first Deadite in that movie. She turns around and the face is like they like literally took latex and they put it on her forehead. I don't think it was like fully dried or something.
Yeah.
To me, that just looks cheap.
That first Evil Dead movie, it's honestly a drag for me to watch. It's really not like when I don't really like that movie. Quite like the only really thing I like about it is the effects, and that's really at the end. I think it might be. I think it's the first one where like the stop motion animation where like all of the Deadite bodies are like disintegrating into the ground, like with stop motion. That was like the big payoff for me, at least, just because it was like insane to watch. It was like I was tripping or something. But yeah, I don't really like that one. I will usually only watch the Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness.
Yeah, and I think that's most people. I think that's most people because it's basically Evil Dead 2 is basically a recap of the first movie, just it doesn't take as much time, and it's only with Ash and the girl. So really you don't have to watch the first Evil Dead, but if you want to watch all the movies, Evil Dead to me is not the worst one, but to me it's like you said, it kind of drags. and
Yeah,
everything.
you honestly don't have to watch the first one to watch the second one. It's basically the same thing, except I do have to give Bruce Campbell some props because most of the movie he is not talking. Most of the movie he is like either sweating and panting and running around, and him being able to convey his emotions just through his body language and his facial expressions is amazing. It's genius, honestly.
Yeah, and he and that's what you have to do. That's what um people like Chaplin and people in the silent movies, they had to convey emotion through body language and facial stuff. That's why movies are great and that they could show all this. When you see a play, you have to be big and bombastic and expressive and loud. And I'm sorry if I'm ripping your headphones right now, but you just got to be really that. And I'm sorry you can't see this everything over here, but yeah, it's a lot of emotion. And so when they got a camera that's this close to your face, they're seeing everything. You can't be like, you have to be,
You have
you
to be
know,
over the top.
you
You have to be.
you have to be
It's
over the top, but realistic at the same time.
yeah,
And Sam Raimi, he knows how to get he knows how to get the reactions out of his actors and everything. Because I'm pretty sure it was hot while they were filming, because it's supposed to be like, or I don't know if it was hot or whatever, but it was like the weather wasn't good, and so these people are like dying and they're like burning up and everything. They're in this hot, humid cabin and stuff. Same with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Going back to the 70s, that house they were filming in was like burning up. It was like 100 degrees outside, and that's not including the stuff on the inside.
yeah. I feel bad for the guy who
You
played
know,
Leatherface. Jesus Christ, he's wearing an apron. He's running around with a chainsaw with the what was it?
yeah,
What was the material that I used on his face? Latex, I'm guessing.
latex. Yeah, I'm
Maybe.
pretty sure.
Yeah, that
Gunnar
gets hot.
Hansen was it? Yeah, it gets hot, and it was cold outside this last couple of Halloweens ago. I went as a scarecrow for Halloween, and it is it is irritating to have to wear that mask. Even it's cold outside. It was like 30 degrees on Halloween, and it was cold outside, but wearing that mask, it's burning up. And I couldn't imagine what it would have been like if it was in the afternoon. You're running with a chainsaw all day long and everything. Plus, you have prosthetic teeth. You had to wear prosthetic teeth in that movie and everything. Plus, you had to wear the mask and you had to wear the apron and you had to wear pants and stuff. And everybody was burning. That's why the performances were so great, because those people were like, I'm done. I'm tired. Let's just get this out of the way. And that's why their performances were as good as they were. Some of them, like especially with the girl at the end, that was why her performances was so good, was because she was dying and she wanted to quit and go back to air conditioning.
Yeah.
But we never really did get into movies, but we did talk about a couple ones. But if you want to know more about 80s horror, check out In Search of Darkness 2. This goes into the second documentary. And they go into detail about effects in different kinds of genres of movies, like giallo movies, Italian films, Japanese films, different commentary from directors and actors and all kinds of people who are fans and everything, and people who were there, people who were on set, who witnessed all this stuff happen as it was being made. And it's just interesting documentary. In Search of Darkness 2 and In Search of Darkness 1. It's all really cool. But now we got to get into the nitty gritty. Um, your first movie, what first movie do you want to talk about? You got talked about Hellraiser and talked about The Thing, but what's another one that you want to talk about?
Well, like I want to go back to whenever I think about horror movies, I thought about A Nightmare on Elm Street, and my particular favorite is pretty much if you're a fan, this is probably your favorite too. Is the third one. The third Nightmare on Elm Street movie, Dream Warriors, is it
Dream
it's
Warriors. Sorry.
it's the best one, and I don't really have to go into much detail about it, but since my fellow Splattervision has yet to see any Nightmare on Elm Street movie, I will go into detail just for him. So basically, the plot of the movie is obviously in the first two. It's not really a spoiler. Freddy gets beaten. He's done for those two movies, but he obviously comes back, and we have a new character. We have a new protagonist, and she goes into a mental asylum with all these other teenagers who experience sort of the same things but have their own different issues. And essentially, make it very short, they have to become a super team to beat Freddy again.
They
And
become
Nancy,
the
yes, exactly. And they all help each other in the final battle. But Nancy from the first one makes a return, and she is one of the counselors. And she helps them. She helps them understand what's going on, how to get them through this. And I won't spoil what happens at the end, but all the effects, all the acting, uh, all the visuals are just top notch. All the kills are really cool. They're really innovative, and definitely some of my favorite kills from any horror movie, to be honest, are from this movie. And the comedy from Freddy is probably the best. It uh, obviously the fourth one gets more comical, and then it just starts to go downhill from there. But I think this is really the one that doesn't get too cheesy, and there's not that many. There's not like an '80s montage movie, montage scene like in the fourth one or the fifth one. And honestly, I think that movie is just a masterpiece. I don't think they could even outdo it today. They could never do that. It's just always going to be that way.
Yeah, and I think that's the consensus when it comes to those movies. Everybody seems to really dig Dream Warriors. A lot of people are really coming into like the second one, which that's had its own fair share of controversy over the years. But I think it's also the first movie. There's a different type of Freddy. There's the first movie's kind of, he's kind of jokey here, and the second one he's very serious, very direct,
very
and then
sinister.
you get very very sinister. He's an evil presence, and then you get to the later ones, and he's like, the power glove, and then he's
yeah.
Like
he has an objective
and,
in the second one, and he tries his best to complete that objective, and that's why I like the second one quite a bit because it takes a more serious turn. But as we all know, it has a lot of controversy, and it also has it was like a kind of groundbreaking for the time. Yes, this is the gayest horror movie. Maybe we haven't seen the gayest one, but for right now, this is the gayest horror movie I have ever seen, and I think most people have ever seen. And
if you want to see
it
movies,
works. It works. That movie is great.
Yeah.
I love that movie so much. It's my second favorite.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I don't know. We have one person. It looks like there's one person watching, but that could be me, because I have it on my TV over here. But for anybody who's just now coming in, yes, we're talking about gay stuff. Anyway, my first pick, not my first pick, but just the first one I have right here, Pet Cemetery. And Pet Cemetery scared the shit out of me the first time I watched it. Okay, I saw the first little bit of it when I was younger. The guy, after everybody already died, the little kid, spoiler alert, I guess, after Gage died and everything, he's sitting on his floor, he's like playing with cards or whatever, and his wife comes in, and she's all bloodied up and nasty and everything. That was the first time I watched it. I didn't really know the context. But this movie is effective because it's scary. The kid, Miko Hughes, was the kid who played Gage in that movie. He's also in A New Nightmare, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He's in that one as well.
Yes, he is. Also, I want to just a little side note. Gage, my stepbrother, as you know, Splattervision, he was named after that movie.
That's creepy.
Yeah,
no
it's kind of dark.
No fair.
That movie is on. When I think about that movie, I think it's honestly more sad than scary to me.
It is. It's very sad. The guy just lost everything. Lost his kid. Lost his cat. And his wife. He lost his wife too. But the scariest part of that movie for me is Zelda, the sister of the mom.
Yes.
And I don't know her name. I know that's sad. Like I don't even know the name of the characters in the movie. But the sister of the mom, Zelda, that woman or guy, whoever it was who played her, creeped me the fuck out.
Great
But they did
job,
it.
by the way, for doing it.
Yeah. Never sleep again. I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight when I go to bed. Thinking about that. But yeah, just effective how it was, and a good cast all around. The little kid was good.
He was so cute, by the way, and not like to be creepy or anything, but he is just like a really cute kid. Like
Yeah.
he's like a Disney Channel star. Like insanely cute for that role. That's
Yeah.
what makes him more sad.
Have you seen him now? He doesn't look okay. He's also like 30 years old now, but he kind of grew out of his looks the older he got. That sounds mean, but it's just like anybody. Um, Gosh, Johnny Depp is the same way. He was really good looking when he was younger. I mean,
Nah,
he was decent looking.
nah.
He was a decent looking guy when he was younger.
He
Not to
was
be
a
weird or
stud
anything.
in A Nightmare on Elm
Hashtag no
Street.
homo. Yeah, he's a decent looking guy in those movies. But the older he's gotten now, he looks pretty rough. I just watched him in a movie today, um, the Black Mass, where he plays a mobster. He's pretty creepy in that.
I don't think
Uh,
he's too bad looking. I mean, like I think he's just aged, and with that comes its problems. But I mean, when
yeah,
I think
but
of
you
Johnny
can.
Depp,
Are
I
you
think of
telling
The
me
Secret Window.
Secret Window? Oh yeah, he looks
Yeah,
fine in that. But like when he has like short hair and he doesn't have 80 pounds of makeup on his body, then I mean he looks fine, you know. Um, but when he's like Willy Wonka, like when you put a bunch of white makeup on his face and he has so much makeup like he's Willy Wonka, it's kind of hard to tell how old he is,
he does
you
not look
know.
like Johnny Depp in that movie. He really doesn't. I like if like you put Captain Jack Sparrow right next to Willie. It's you can't. It's not unrecognizable.
Yeah. Well, Tim Burton, he's the guy. He's a visionary. He's fantastic. He's one of my favorite directors of all time. But gosh, he's made some stinkers over the years, and that is one of them. I
Yeah,
mean, the
that
movie
it's
stylistically, like what they were really going for, the spectacle of it, it's great. It's fantastic. The sets and everything are good. The look of the Candyland, candy. That sounds weird, but the look of the candy room where they first go into it, where it shows all the stuff is made of candy and everything. Uh, I mean, it looks Tim Burton-ish with all the trees and everything's all swirled and stuff. Um, the difference between what Tim Burton does and what the guy I forgot the guy who directed the original one with Gene Wilder is they were going for like, oh, it's mystical, everything's made of candy, and all these kids are running around and they're, you know, have gumdrops that look like beach balls, which they probably were beach balls, so they're like kicking around gum and stuff, and so it was going for a different feel, and but yeah, Johnny Depp has not aged. He's aged pretty well, but he has to have a certain look. Like when he has that long hair, kind of mid length hair with the mustache and the beard, he doesn't look bad. He looks fine. But when he looks like the Grindelwald, did you see the pictures of him when he was posing for the crimes of Grindelwald and stuff like that?
I have not.
If you can
I
probably look up a picture of it and you'll see what he looks like. He looks pretty bad. But anyway, but to me, the scariest part was Zelda, and the cast is good when you have Fred Gwynn, the guy who played Herman Munster in the Munsters. He he's really good. He's a better judge, Judd, whatever his name was. He's better at that character than sadly John Lithgow, because I love John Lithgow. He's Lord Farquaad. How can you hate John Lithgow? Um, but anyway, do you have another one?
another one. I've already talked about a lot of them.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of horror, what do I think of horror? Another scary one. That's one that scared me. Friday the 13th, probably part 4 was especially scary for me. Like whenever I was younger, because it obviously had it was the older movies like the past 3 were obviously killing teenagers. and they didn't look like teenagers, to be honest. They looked like their 20s, so they look like adults. And
Right.
he's killing adults in the second two, and then but in the fourth one they have a child actor where he tries to kill little Corey Feldman.
Yeah, and
And it honestly it was like, well, he's never done this before. I didn't think he'd go after a child. I didn't think he was heartless.
yeah, Corey
And
Feldman. I was just about to bring up the Lost Boys when you said that. So,
I know that's a great.
but yeah,
Go
continue.
ahead, go with that one because that's you have more to talk about than I do on Friday the 13th Part 4.
Yeah, well, no, Corey Feldman, child actor, grew up in Hollywood and everything, and he would have been. I think he would have been a good actor. Well, he was a good actor. But now his life is kind of sad. With everything, all the allegations and stuff with Michael Jackson, and all the stuff he went through with Corey Haim. They were called the two Coreys back in the day, and they're both in the Lost Boys. Sorry, they're both in the Lost Boys, and that's another really good 80s horror vampire movie. And just the whole history of the movie is sad, and it's unfortunate that Corey Feldman kind of retired from Hollywood because you don't see him in many things anymore, except like maybe a fourth Lost Boys movie if they make one, which they probably will.
I hope they don't. If they're gonna make one, they should reboot it, and he should be like a cameo, like I don't know, like sweeping in the background doing something else. Maybe he teaches the other kids how to do it, but I don't know.
No,
That
if
those last three, the last two that came out, oh my god, absolutely, they're unwatchable to be honest.
if they do a Lost Boys movie, I'm not saying they should, but I'm saying if they are gonna revamp the franchise or do something, remake it, have him as a cameo, but don't remake it. That's what I'm saying. They don't need to remake it, but they probably will at one point. But if they do remake it and he's still alive, I'm not saying he's gonna die anytime soon, but he
You heard it here, folks. He's gonna die.
he's gonna die. I don't know. He seems sad, man. I don't know if he's gonna be on Earth much longer. But if he does, he should be a cameo in it. Like he should be the dad, if there's a dad character, or maybe he should be John Landis. John Landis's character in that movie. He plays the guy who's trying to get in with the mom in that movie.
Yeah, he's old
Anyway.
enough. He looks the part.
Yeah, it would be kind of creepy though. They'd probably get some like 20-year-old woman and he's like 50 or 60. So
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, he could probably play the John Landis character, so it'd be like a turn, like instead of the frog character, he's playing the douchey vampire. And I think that would be the best way to do it. But they probably will remake it and he'll be like he's still playing the same character. So it'll be like a little kid and he's the same guy. Um the best cameo that to have a character to reuse a character in a movie was funny enough bringing it back to Johnny Depp was when Johnny Depp was in 21 Jump Street, the
Oh yeah.
2010 movie.
22 Jump Street.
Well, they did 22 Jump Street, then they did 21 Jump Street
Yeah. Did he make
before
a
that.
cameo in 21 Jump Street, or was that only the 22
Yeah,
Jump Street?
he wasn't in 22 Jump Street.
Yeah,
He
he
died.
was.
He was.
He died. He died. That's the second
He
one.
died in 21 Jump Street. In the
Wait,
first
did
one,
he? Oh no!
he was the
You're right.
biker.
You're right. Sorry about that.
He was the biker guy. He was like,
Yeah.
he was the guy with the big beard, and then he's like, we were on 21 Jump Street, and then he gets killed, sadly.
Yeah.
But they should do like that, and it'd be like a character, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole history with the Lost Boys and Corey Haim and Corey Feldman is honestly tragic, and sadly, Corey Haim he passed away several years. He passed away a decade ago. That seems crazy, but he passed away in 2010, I believe, and he um he had a lot of problems with drugs and alcoholism, and it all started from the movies he did before this, because he was even at that age was groomed, let's just say, even at like really young. He did a movie called Lucas, I believe, in his first one of his first movies he ever did, and he was groomed in that early in his career, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control. after
I'll
that.
have to
So
look into more of that situation with Corey Haim because I honestly don't know that much about it, and I don't really know the history about the Lost Boys with Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. To be honest, I know the allegations that Feldman has had with other people and like Michael Jackson
yeah,
stuff like that, but I didn't really
yeah,
look into it that much because I love them both so much. I loved Corey Feldman as a child actor, and I don't really like to look into actors' personal lives because I try my best not to. I do it with music. I separate the artist from the music
as
from
an
the art.
artist, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
but
what I tell people all the time. Like actors, like people like Kevin Spacey, like he's had allegations with grooming and in Hollywood. But I was like, to separate the art from the artist, the guy's a fantastic actor. You know, why do I don't want to worry about he did this to somebody and so and so. It's just like I'm just here to watch the movie. I'm not here to listen to a court case. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And
but for me, it's a lot harder to do that with movies because they're so much more personal than music. You can get personal with music and all, but with movies, you're like sitting there watching it. You're like seeing like the person's mannerisms, and you fall in love with this character, and it's just really hard to separate that. So I try not to
yeah,
look into most people's personal lives about that stuff. Like Gene Wilder, I love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But I'm probably not gonna look into his personal life from what I've heard.
what was the whole issue with that? I never heard anything about
Well,
that.
I don't know exactly because I've never really looked, but what I can probably guess from is probably abuse, most likely. Because if it was like a pedophilia or anything, I feel like I would have heard about it by now. But it was probably like
Right? Yeah,
abuse,
yeah.
probably abuse from women or whatever. Not no,
There's a
I didn't
lot
mean to
of
blow it off like that. Yeah, that's serious, but
yeah. No, I get it. I get it. And
yeah, it's
well, I have another live stream that we could probably do at one point, talking about people who were in the closet in their Hollywood days. I know you probably don't want to be on here and talk about that, but
well, I'm
um,
just really not well versed in that subject. I don't really know about that
yeah,
stuff.
no, it's just like music. Like we talk about, like you talk about music because you know that. Like I know movies and just dumb
Yeah, the
stuff like
dynamic duo.
the dynamic duo. Yes, as Gregory would say. Um, yeah, it's sad. It's separating the art from the artist, and to me, it's the best way to go about it. I'm not trying to hear a court case like this is why you shouldn't watch this person or this is why you shouldn't listen to the song. It's like Michael Jackson. People love Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson has been popular even years after his death. I think I was probably in kindergarten when Michael Jackson died. That's how young I am.
Yeah, I was in kindergarten as well, and that really, I've always been a fan. I don't know any. Wait, yeah, I don't know anybody who doesn't like. Well, Corey Feldman doesn't like Michael Jackson, but that's a different subject.
Yeah,
I always loved Michael Jackson. I'm sorry, I had to.
I mean,
I
I don't know if he. Also, I don't know if that's entirely like accurate with all the stuff. I'd say Michael Jackson and everything. But I don't know. Do you know if it's for certain if it actually happened or was it just allegations?
I don't. He never got convicted. I don't believe he got convicted. So, I mean, they could
Yeah.
have. He could possibly have done it. I don't think he did it. Just for I don't really want to go into much about that. Why I don't think he did it, but just from personal feelings, I don't think he did it. But we'll never know. We will
Yeah.
never know. Like there was like something recently that came up about it. I think there was like a documentary
Yeah.
about
Leaving Neverland.
getting up and talking about it. But I don't really think it's fair when the other person isn't here. And his
Right.
death was
Yeah.
so sad and abrupt. Nobody knew this was going to happen. It was so sad. There wasn't. It was just insane. And I remember
Yeah.
my school telling us this because he was such a big figure. Like the school even brought it up, and we also we had like a dance, like we had like an after school event for that, just about his music.
Yeah. That's sad, man. That's not sad that you had to do that, but
No,
it's
I loved it. I
crazy.
mean, I was so sad, but like it was like a really good thing. Probably got me more into Michael Jackson than I ever have.
Yeah.
And well at the time.
Well, I think luckily for him, he had so many fans and so many people who were behind him that even if he was convicted, there could be people that will claim that will fight to the death, tooth and nail, to say that he didn't do it, even if he was convicted. Even if there was evidence on the table that said he did all this stuff allegedly. We're saying allegedly he didn't. We're not saying he did anything, but there will be people, even if there's evidence on the table, that would say that he didn't do it. That's how much people really care about him, and it's crazy. Unfortunately, he's not here anymore to tell his side of the story. But when the people are making documentaries and stuff about it, about all the allegations, and like, yeah, well, he did this, but now he's dead, and so we're going to talk about it, and we're not going to talk about it while he's still alive and everything. We're going to talk about it a decade after he died.
Yeah.
So I
But
think that's kind of messed up.
but to play devil's advocate, Michael Jackson was a weird dude. He did some weird stuff, and he was a weird character. But
He's a perfect target for some allegations and stuff like that.
yeah, I mean,
perfect target. Perfect.
I mean, he, especially with the abuse. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was abuse. Like I don't know if he called it abuse, but since he was a star from his childhood, and his family more like his dad being so hard on him in those early years. I mean, I think there must have had
anything.
Yeah, I think that's what really took a toll on him, and I think that was one of the things that formed him as a person, and it was definitely off. Something was definitely off about him, but I don't really think it ever got in the way of me liking him.
Right.
I never really cared.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before, separating the art from the artist. I like his music and everything, and I don't know why we're going on this tangent about Michael Jackson.
Yeah, 80's horror. We're talking about Michael Jackson.
Yeah, but no, 80's Michael Jackson. That was a big deal.
Yeah, big thing. Thriller.
Okay, going off on another tangent here. Fashion in the 80's. There's nothing like it. Like with the hair and everything. You have the big hair in the 80's. You have like costume, like things like Beverly Hills Cop. In Beverly Hills Cop, there's a whole scene where Axel Foley, who's played by Eddie Murphy, he's walking down the street and he sees like two guys dressed up like Michael Jackson, and that just shows you the time how popular he was at the peak of, like, because I would say the 80's was like the peak of his popularity and everything, and people were like 100%. Dressing like Michael Jackson, like literally, and so it's just crazy how the time, it's such a product of its time. Like these movies are like products of their time. But yeah, anyway, do you have anything else you would like to add to that subject about allegations of abuse?
Well, about that, I don't really know much more about that stuff. Like, I'm not really. I could talk to you all day about Michael Jackson now and why I love his music so much, but this is not that day. This is not that stream.
Are you gonna be a Michael Jackson impersonator?
Maybe one day.
Are you maybe one day, like the chin? Are you gonna get like the chin that I have? That have that Michael Jackson chin?
I think you already have it. I think it'd be a natural impersonator. I think I just wouldn't look like anything in him at all. I'd be like a fat Elvis impersonator.
People were saying when I was younger, I used to imitate Elvis and everything, and I kind of had the voice, and people say you'll be like an Elvis impersonator when you grow up, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think I would be it now.
That's kind of a sad job. I wouldn't want my legacy to be knowing, like, oh, here's so and so. He was once the 50,000th Elvis impersonator in Las Vegas, and he died of, I don't know, starvation because he couldn't get paid enough. He's like,
yeah, he had diabetes. He ate peanut butter banana sandwiches.
Those are good.
God damn it. Elvis, my uncle, he said he saw Elvis 2-3 weeks before he passed away. He said he was like, imagine me, like our size, but like extra 100 pounds. That's how big he was.
They should have got a picture of him on the toilet.
Oh God, I think they do have a picture of him on the toilet.
I want to see that picture.
It's gross. Yeah, I was like, oh, you just see the spicy cover of this band called Mayhem. They have a really spicy cover with this guy. He's like laying on the ground. He has like jelly all over his head. It's pretty cool. No, but yeah, like imagine like our size, right? And then an extra 100 pounds on that. This guy was huge when he died,
You
and he
think
said his
he
fingers.
fell?
He fell. You think he fell?
You think he
Like, what
like
do you
stayed
mean?
on the toilet, or think he fell over?
I think he was
Like
taking a shit, and then he just like, and then died. That's what I think.
bananas, man.
It happens.
Bananas will get to you.
Same thing. Same thing happened to Judy Garland, once famed stage actress, famous. She was the girl who was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She had a drug problem. She had a. I don't think she had diabetes, but she had a drug problem, and she died on the toilet. You know, so
Yeah,
one of my favorite lines from epic rap battles. If I don't know if you've ever seen them on YouTube. Uh,
of course.
if you've seen them, do you watch the Elvis versus Michael Jackson
Oh
video?
yeah, I remember. I
There's
remember.
this line. One of my favorite lines of that video is Elvis. He goes, "I died on the shitter, but I don't give a crap." And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Watch it.
What's your favorite epic rap battles of history?
One of my favorite ones. Oh gosh, the director ones, obviously, Alfred Hitchcock versus Steven Spielberg, and then you have Stanley Kubrick, Michael Bay, Quentin Tarantino, and you have some other ones.
Well,
That one, and then the first Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. Oh no, just they only did one of those, but Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. Those
yeah,
are my
that one
two
was
favorite
great.
ones.
I remember when that came out and I watched it, and that
Oh
was
yeah, I was in school and everybody was watching that video. Everybody was watching that. It was like Donald Trump versus Hillary. Who won? I think Abraham Lincoln won. That's who I think won.
yeah, Abraham
And
Lincoln was badass. But my favorite is Walter White versus the guy from The Walking Dead. I forgot his name.
Rick Grimes. Yes.
Right, Rick Grimes. That one's awesome. Especially when he rips off his pants and he says, "My Walter Whitey tighties." That's my favorite line. I forgot what it was what he
Tidy
said
Walter
before that.
Whiteys. Yeah.
What?
Tidy Walter Whiteys. That's what he called him.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 1 second.
Carl, stay back. It's gonna get bad. Yes. No, those are all great. You should check them out. They're independent now. They haven't put out a video in like months. It's pretty, I would say, sad, but it's kind of sucks because they were like putting them out like every other week or whatever back in the day, but now they're like independent. Same with JonTron. Like I subscribed to JonTron because I thought he was funny. Like I thought he was kind of entertaining because he is. Like he's obviously a
Yeah.
comedian. Like I just watched a video of his earlier. He was talking about Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal.
Steven Skull. Jesus Christ.
No, Steven Seagal. All right, that's where we're gonna end the stream. No, he's talking about Steven Seagal, and he's obviously entertaining because I think he's a stand-up comedian. But like that's the last video he's put out in the last 4 months. Was that one? And so it's been like 4 months since like the last video. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just, a lot of these places, a lot of these things are big on YouTube, and now they're kind of going down. I think the quality of epic rap battles, like the quality and the look of it, has gotten better, but the raps are not as good. Like,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
you don't have
like
like epic ones like Batman versus what is his name?
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes or Adolf Hitler versus Darth Vader. Those are like classics, and
Yes, Adolf
yeah,
Hitler versus
all
Darth
3
Vader.
parts are insane.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
really like epic rap battles of history as much as I used to anymore, but
Yeah. Those are
the
the
Terminator
first
versus
video.
RoboCop.
Yes, that one's a good one. That was the first video. Not I think the first video I ever watched on YouTube, and this was back in 2014, 2015. I know that feels like forever ago. But I think that was the first time I ever watched YouTube. Ever didn't even know what YouTube was. Until somebody brought it up at school. They were watching the epic rap battles, and they were talking about Mr. T versus Mr. Rogers.
Oh, that one was great. He said, like, "Get the fuck out of my neighborhood." At the end.
Get right back in your van. Get the fuck out of my neighborhood. I'm like, whoa. Mr. T. I want to find a Mr. T poster. I'm going to put it in the middle of my room, and I'm going to pray to it every night.
Speaking of posters and bringing it back to horror, since we're on this huge long tangent,
I'm sorry.
horror movie posters. Horror movie posters are great, and I want to get more. I have one. well, I don't have it right now, but I do have one. It's called it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster, and it's not the one of him slamming the door. It's him running out, and it has the red. I think it's red or the black text saying Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'll get that when I go back to my friend's house. But one that I want to get is The Thing, obviously.
Like the one that I have.
Yeah, but bigger. The bigger one of that.
Yeah.
I love horror movie posters. I also we've talked about this one before on the bus, and it was the original Friday the 13th album. I'm not album cover.
Album. Yes.
Our
Album. Yes.
poster, the poster with the axe on the pillow. That is
no,
my
I like
favorite.
That one. It's very grindhouse.
Yes.
It's very grindhouse. The movie they developed the movie in the 70s. So that's why it looks like that, I think. But I really like it. I like the way it looks.
But yeah.
So,
speaking of, since I don't really know what other movies to talk about, but we can talk about the crappy Halloween movies in the 80s. Because everything after the second Halloween movie was pretty bad.
Yeah. The Halloween.
There's not much you can really say.
They dipped in quality. They got better in the early 2000s, like 2007, and then 2009. That was the best one, I think. Those are Rob Zombie movies.
Well, I'm talking about the traditional. Yeah, the 80s ones, like.
No, I was like, that's when they got better. Was in 2007. Was the Rob Zombie ones? That was like the peak of the Halloween movies.
I don't
agree.
In
quality. It's almost as better. It's almost better. Actually, it is better than the original.
Is it? I think that's a very bold. I was about to say that's a very bold statement that I think are going to make a lot of our viewers mad. But my favorite is probably now the third one. I mean, not the third one. God no. The first one. The first one.
I'm bright now.
You're bright.
I have a light. Yes, I got a.
The more you know.
A ring light. I'm sorry if my room is messy. I got the void in my room.
What?
I guess I'll turn it off. But yeah, it's pretty good. The Halloween the remake. The movies the second one was good. It's a good follow up to the it kind of you don't have to hide what Michael Myers looks like because you already know what he looks like and everything. So they didn't really have to cut around that. But it does amp up the gore and the titties that the first one had.
Speaking of horror, how could we not mention the nudity in all of 80s horror? It's pretty great, to be honest. Since not really that many people, since implants weren't really a big thing back then.
They were just beginning to be a thing. Sorry.
Well, most of them were either natural. Yeah. So that was all like really great. So I always loved the Friday the 13th franchise just for that, because in every movie you had to have some sort of nudity in it, or else it wouldn't be a true Friday the 13th movie.
Right. Well, I don't think the first one really had a whole lot of nudity. I mean, it had a little bit, but even in the I don't even think it was really nudity. It was all implied because there's like a sex scene in the first one.
Doesn't like she like stab? Doesn't she like the mother stab them like through the bed in the first one whenever it's like raining outside?
No, she stabs Kevin Bacon through the neck. In the first one, through the neck. But it was like in the later ones, Jason. I think it was in the third or fourth one where he stabs him through the bed, both of them through the bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, nudity was a big deal back then, and there are movies like Roger Corman, and oh god, that's the first one that's coming to mind. But Roger Corman was really infamous for having girls in his movies. It was like boobs and blood. That's what the draw was, and he was right. I I mean, I guess for some people, not really for my taste, because we have both different opinions on that stuff. But um, he said that's what gets people in the seats, and I mean, he was right. He's made some of the classic schlocky, kind of crappy movies. Um, there's some. There's actually has a pretty decent one. It talks about in the documentary. He has a really a decent one that he did. The Humanoids from the Deep, I think it was.
That's a really cool name. I need to check that out.
Yeah, it's something like that. If I can find it, I'll send it to you. But he did the Slumber Party Massacre movies, or the first one. I think it might have been the first one.
There's more than one?
Yeah, there's more than one Slumber Party Massacre.
That sounds like really cheesy. I've never heard it. I see. I'm not like a big horror guy. I like it, but I just haven't really. I'm probably people more know about that stuff than I do. But tell me more about this. This sounds kind of cheesy, but kind of sounds like Prom Night.
Prom Night. I don't know if it's not really Prom Night, but basically Slumber Party Massacre. I think it was directed by it was directed by a woman, but Roger Corman produced it, and so
Women. I'm just kidding.
He also produced Shopping Mall. Him and his wife produced Shopping Mall. I don't know if you've heard that or seen that one. Have you seen that one?
Was that about mannequins?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't mannequins. It was these things called killbots. They're in this mall, and they're in this mall, and these robots go around and they find people in the mall and they kill them. Okay, that's really vague, but Dead Meat did a review of it. He did a review of it, so you get more information on that. But yeah, basically, I think it was made by the same director, Roger Corman. And anyway, this movie, Slumber Party Massacre, this guy, they call him the Driller Killer, which is funny because there's another movie called The Driller Killer that came out in '78, I believe. And he's going around basically drilling these girls, and not the way you think. So,
oh man,
yeah, I know.
If only.
If only. But Mia Khalifa is in a video called Driller Killer, but she does get drilled like you think.
We'll have to check that out later.
Anyway, but yeah, she's basically this group of girls. They go into this house, and there's this guy who's an escaped serial killer or something like that, and he's got this drill, and he's drilling these girls, and he's killing all these girls in this house, and yeah, that's basically the whole premise. Is this guy is going around killing a bunch of these girls with hand drills and like power drills and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Was Candyman in the 90s or the 80s?
It was in the 90s. It was early 90s, I think. Yeah, I think it might have been 94 actually. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, early 90s. Another movie. I'm trying to think. There's other movies that are very good, like those kind of crappy, cheesy movies that are really popular.
Child's Play.
Child's Play. You don't like Child's Play? The original Child's Play?
You know, it's so stupid. That's the word that I'm looking for. It's such a stupid like I used to like it and I used to be really interested in it, but now that I think about it, it's a cool idea on paper. I don't think it's executed very well. I don't think it's really scary. I mean, it might be scary to like younger kids, and I don't really think that's what they were trying to do. I think they were just trying to scare like adults because obviously they wouldn't have made if they were trying to scare kids, they would have made it less gory. So I mean, obviously it scared kids, but it was just like him trying to be funny, and it just didn't work. It just didn't feel like a horror movie to me. Really, it felt like some sort of twisted thriller with some gore. There wasn't that much gore in the movie.
What did you think of the new one?
I haven't watched the remake. Isn't it a remake?
Yeah, it's a remake. Well, it's not really a remake. It's more of a reboot. Instead of Chucky, he's called Chucky in the movie, but he's Buddy instead of the good guy doll. So,
Oh
and
well,
it's voiced by
that
Mark Hamill. It's
well
voiced by the Joker. So,
more like it's voiced by Luke Skywalker, but I don't really
yeah.
know. I don't. I think the best Chucky movie, the Child's Play movie, is the third one with the military camp, and
The
that
third
was
one?
the one that. Yeah, the third one. I
Oh,
like the kills in that one.
you know the guy who's the barber in that movie? He is the guy who gets ripped up by he's the guy who gets his skin basically filleted by the brother in Hellraiser.
Oh
He's the stepdad.
yeah, yeah,
He's the stepdad or the he's the brother of the guy who died, her original boyfriend, and she
yeah.
married his brother, and that's the guy who's the barber in Child's Play 3. And I at first I didn't even know it was called Child's Play. I always thought it was called Chucky because that's what I always heard it as. Like, yeah, Chucky is like a scary movie. It's like Chucky. My friend he dressed up as Chucky for Halloween and scared the shit out of me. That was before I got into horror movies, so I was like Chucky. But I
Yeah,
watched Child's Play and it was not like scary. I didn't think it was. My mom hates it because just the idea of it kind of scares her.
I do like the voice actor who's played Chucky for all these years, and up until I think it was 2019 when the other one came out. Up until
Yeah, Brad
2019,
Dourif.
yeah, he was a. I like his voice a lot, and I think his voice was really good for Chucky. I think he really fit well,
Yeah.
and he had like a really aggressive voice. Whenever he screams, like it is kind of like whoa, like oh he's getting serious. Better back off a little bit.
Yeah, no, he's a classically Brad Dourif. He is a classically trained actor, just like a lot of people. Just like God, hell, like Al Pacino. Al Pacino, he's a classically trained actor. He can go from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, like
You
Robert De
know,
Niro. Yeah,
Robert De Niro. Um, and it doesn't show in his early work. Okay, well, actually, it does show in his early work. But you got movies like Godfather, which was like a couple of his first movies. Um, he doesn't really freak out, but like when you get in um, movies like Serpico and his later movies like um, a recent one, um, The Irishman, which if you've never seen The Irishman, and I know you're not really a big fan of, you like slow burn movies,
yeah, I
but you're
do.
not a
I
fan
actually
like,
do.
but you're not like like me. I like more the classic style like movies like that. That's not the kind of movies that you really look forward to, like
I
you
mean,
really look for.
it's a good like once in a while. Like I don't go out of my way to like, what's a good movie that's gonna waste 3 hours of my life? Like not really waste, but like take 3 hours of my day and make me
I
think.
get it.
I'm not really just in the mood for that most of the time. But like once in a while, I'll watch like Clockwork Orange and something like that, where it'll really make me
Oh,
think.
Clockwork Orange. We got to talk about 70s horror. We're kind of backtracking, but we got to talk about 70s horror. When you watch some more of those movies, you'll come on again and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, A Clockwork Orange, that movie's fantastic. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, but yeah, people like Al Pacino, he's like The Irishman. Like, I will sit through a movie. Like, I went to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that movie is almost 3 hours long. And I would have sat that movie if it was 5 hours long. Like, I honestly could have. I wish they would have went more in depth about, Charles Manson and stuff like that. Going off on a tangent again. I wish they I wish they would have talked more about the Charles Manson stuff. It really played into it than it did. Although what we got was fantastic with the 60s Hollywood and everything, and all the old movies they were trying to, what passed off was like the old movies and stuff. And it's all great. You really check that out if you haven't seen it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Um, but yeah, I seek out those kind of movies. Like, I don't go to every one I see, but like if The Irishman came out in theaters, which it didn't, unfortunately. Okay, I say that, but it might have came out in like other places, like in Hollywood. It might have came out in the theaters there, or like in Dallas. But in our little a town in the middle of BFE here in Texas, uh, it didn't come out in theaters, so it come out on Netflix. But if it had came out in theaters, I wouldn't have went and saw that movie. I would have sat in there for 5 hours if that what it was, because I really dig those movies. But I don't know,
I
maybe it's
wish
just me.
Goodfellas was longer.
Yeah.
I feel like they
There's a
could have added
movie.
so much more stories in there because that movie is really just a bunch of stories leading up to the ending.
Yeah, it is. It's about this one guy who apparently the movie, like, his whole character is not entirely accurate, according to some people who were witness to that whole event. A guy who they talk about in the movie, Michael Francis. He's kind of like a little short thing in there, but Michael Francis, the actual guy who was involved in the Colombo, he was involved in the Colombo crime family in the 70s, and he knew Henry Hill and all those guys, and then Donnie Brasco. He said he knew Donnie Brasco when he was in his little outfit of people. He knew all the characters in the movie. That's another movie. If you like mob movies, that's another one you have to see. But like this guy, he's on YouTube and he talks about, like, he's a classic like New Yorker. So he's like, it wasn't this, Henry Hill. He was kind of like this small time guy. He wasn't this and everything. And so um, it was interesting to hear his perspective. Henry Hill, the guy who played, not Ray Liotta who plays Henry Hill in the movie, but the actual guy, he died in real life, so he can't tell his part of the story. Um, but if he does, if they do make movies, when they obviously will make more mob movies in the future, because there's so much stuff there that needs to be talked about. But he needs to be a consultant on all those movies because he really has a lot of insight into the lifestyle and the people, and he can give you like, oh, this is more realistic than this. And obviously anybody who talks about this, like, well, about creative liberty in Hollywood and everything, you can't tell everything exact. um uh and that brings me to my next movie I want to talk about, The Shining, which was originally a book that came out in the 70s by Stephen King. Care to comment on that?
Absolutely, it's. I know some of the actors don't really like this movie, but I honestly, it is art. This to me is art. It. Whenever I think of slow burn movies, I think of The Shining, and I don't. To me, there is no dull moment in this movie. This movie makes me feel on edge the whole entire time, just because I know it is leading up to to the ending.
Right. And well, I think the way they advertise it, they thought it was going to be like he was going to kill his family and everything, and it was going to be like this big slasher movie, and it really isn't. And that's what I thought going into it, because I always saw the little girls getting killed, and then Jack Nicholson. Like, I remember seeing this face at my grandparents' house. I remember seeing this fucking face on a DVD. One of the, not even like a DVD, the case. You know the ones that's like the cardboard thing, and you kind of clap it in,
Oh
and it
yeah,
goes
I
over.
have my Blade Runner is like that.
It was one of those, and I remember seeing that on the shelf, and I'm like, "Fuck you," I hated it, but I really love The Shining. I really dig this movie. Stanley Kubrick. They did change some stuff. That's why I talked about it taking creative liberties, because they did change some stuff about it from the book to the movie. But they did fix some of it in the TV series they did, which was a TV series for the book. This came out in the 80s. I think the TV series came out in the 90s. And then they did Doctor Sleep, which was the sequel in 2017. 2017? Or what was that?
It was I think either 2018 or 2019. It's
Whatever.
probably 2019, but I loved it. It was great. It almost reminded me of like an A24 film.
What's that?
A24, the same studios who made Hereditary and Midsummer and
Oh,
other movies like
artsy
that.
stuff.
Yeah, well, artsy horror movies, but honestly, they're actually scarier than they're the scariest horror movies I've ever seen. All the stuff from A24, like The Witch, I think it was from an A24 movie, was also really unnerving. There wasn't really many. That was a slow burn too. So I mean,
Next time I go over to your place, we gotta watch
Hereditary.
Hereditary.
We
Yeah,
do. Will you
we'll
actually
watch
do it?
your.
Will you
I
actually
will
do it?
watch it. I'll watch it
All
with
right.
you. Just don't. Don't fuck with me while we're watching the movie.
No, I hate that. I hate
'Cause
when people do that.
I will sleep in the living room.
Um,
I will
after
put
that
in the
movie, you
hangar.
might not want to.
Yeah, fuck, I hate you. But yeah, we'll watch it on your TV that's as big as my computer. But
Don't be knocking my TV, man. You know what it's used for. It's used for gaming, and you don't really need a big. Why would you use a big TV for gaming? I don't even
I
watch that
don't
much TV.
game. My TV is my TV. You've seen what my TV looks like. It's small, but it's good for what I need it for. I want a bigger TV because I'm only 8. I'm 18 years old. I have my birthday. Um, I'm 18 years old, but I have the eyes of a 60-year-old man, and so I need a big TV. My TV has to be the size of a side of a building so I can see that shit. And what I hate is I feel like my TV is so loud because I'm upstairs and there's a whole lot of space up here in my room. There's like, enough space, but I feel like my TV is so freaking loud and everything. Plus, I have to keep it turned down because my sister, she's next door, and so she's like, turn it down and everything. But if I had a TV, it would be like the biggest one they have, so I can be more immersed into the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, watch it on the TVs. That's the size of the. I rather watch it on one of those 16:9 Panasonic TVs I had when I was 7 years old. Those old TVs.
Yeah. Did they have the? Did yours have a VHS in it? VHS player built into it?
One of them did. One of them didn't. One of them actually had a DVD player in it. The one did not. It had a VHS. You had to hook it up and everything.
How many viewers
But
we
yeah,
got right now?
we have one, but people will watch it later. People will go back and watch it later. That's the big thing.
Hey y'all.
Hi. Well,
Hi all
future
the people who watch it later, and probably me later in life. Hey.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you'll watch it later. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
this guy became on. He went on to
I
make
wonder who that
movies.
guy is. His voice sounds
Yeah,
pretty sexy.
baloney. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's baloney. Oh yes. My interwebs are not working correct right now, so I cannot do the uh giveaway. But I will let you know on Twitter and Instagram um who the winner of the giveaway is. I believe it is Kyle D. Um, it's Kyle D, Super Nerdy Geek, and Thrasher Bleach is on there
Hey.
as well. So
Hey.
we'll
You know I
see.
gotta enter that giveaway.
Yeah, you got to enter that giveaway. I think the next one I'm gonna be like it's a free for all. Whoever wants to enter the giveaway can do it. But this one is like if you want to get people they follow and all that stuff. But yes, it's a surprise movie code giveaway. I think I'm going to do it every month, not every episode, but every month. So this March, I will be giving another digital code away. Plus, I got some new movies that I could probably do that with. Thankfully, so be prepared for that if you want to enter the giveaway. Um, but yeah, The Shining. Sorry, going back to The Shining. The Shining, slow burn classic movie. Stephen King did not like it because it wasn't exactly what he envisioned
Neither did
when he
Jack
made the movie.
Nicholson.
He didn't like the movie either.
No,
Was it
he did
just
not.
the whole? Was it the atmosphere of the movie, like just the atmosphere of working with Stanley Kubrick and stuff like
Now,
that,
I
or was
could
it
be
just?
wrong, but I don't think he liked his performance.
I
Which
think he did great.
I thought he did great too. He seemed insane. He seemed like a psycho, which was great. And he 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 just reminded me of a deadbeat, and that's what he did great.
Yeah, and we can't remember the Scat Man. Skeet up up up. Yeah, Scatman Crothers was in that movie. He
Yeah.
played. I forgot his name. Laverne, whatever his name was. That's not his name, I know, but yes, they got a guy who played him in the Doctor Sleep, and he wasn't too far off from the actual actor. I think they got a really good. They got a good one. Um, but yeah, I still haven't seen Doctor Sleep, so we'll have to watch that one too. I've been waiting to watch it. Um, I watched
It's
the review on it.
not definitely not like Steven. It's not like The Shining. It's a slow burn, but it's not the slow burn that you're thinking of whenever you think of The Shining.
Right, you're right. Yeah. There's a lot more. Well, I've seen clips of the movie. There seems like there's a lot more action than there is uh in the movie, or in the, what do you call it? Like the first Shining. There's a lot more action in there, so it's more, you think, evenly paced than there is in the.
There's definitely more action, but it is definitely not as scary as The Shining. Which The Shining, when I read, the scariest scene, in my opinion, is definitely the blood in the elevator, and was it the pig? The pig on the bed. What was it? What was
It was a
exactly what he?
dog.
It was a dog
It was a dog.
with a
Yeah.
mask. With the guy with a mask, and it was a dog. And what was he doing to
And
that person?
he was giving him the Glizzy 9000.
Yeah, he was giving him a guac
He,
guac.
he was going he was going ham on his ham. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
And
and yeah. Whenever he looked up at Jack's wife, I forgot her name. She was ugly.
Wendy.
Wendy. Yeah, yeah. I just call her ugly. And yeah, that was scary. That's the scariest
Damn,
movie.
you're gonna diss Olive Oil like that? Shelley Duvall, she played Olive Oil in that Popeye movie with
With
Robin
Robin
Williams.
Williams. Yeah, I haven't seen that
Yeah, she
yet.
played Olive Oil. Oh my god, it's so cheesy, but Robin Williams plays a good Popeye. Just saying. But yeah, she plays her in that movie. Shelley Duvall is definitely not the most best looking woman ever.
She is definitely the
I don't think
scariest part of The Shining.
Terrible, so mean. I mean, they got a decent actress to play her in the what do you call it, Doctor Sleep. Like, she looks decent, but I don't think that's the whole point of the character. If she looks terrible or not, I mean, not saying
No wonder
everybody's
he tried
beautiful
to
in their
kill
own
her.
way. Everybody, shut up. Everybody's beautiful in their own way. I feel bad for Shelley Duvall, honestly, because she had to deal with his shit in that movie.
Oh,
And
Stephen King.
Stephen Hawking, yes. Oh, no, not Stephen King. Stanley Kubrick. She had to deal with his stuff, having to read it, and plus, he didn't even like her. Like, I don't think he might have liked her, but he didn't treat her as like everybody else, and so he treated her badly, and he told everybody else to treat her badly. And so I could imagine working on that set and having the director just like out to get you. That to me is kind of shitty. So I don't blame her for like quitting acting, because she did other movies after that, but she didn't do very many. She's kind of traumatized still today by that whole ordeal with that movie, and I don't blame her. But I think the performance she gave was definitely a product of her environment. She was so stressed, and Stanley obviously wanted to get the best he could out of her, and that's what he got. I think she did well. But yeah, I think it is about that time. Again, I will let the people um, who won the giveaway on Twitter and Instagram. So I'll send you the code in your direct messages. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this stream. Thank you for Thrash or Bleach for coming on. Do you have any last words to send us off?
If you want to follow me, if you want to know more about me, and well, not really more about me, but if you just want to see more stuff about me, stuff that I like, you can follow me on my Instagram at remastered period thrash period or period bleach. So remastered thrash or bleach with periods in between all the words. And I post mostly music stuff. Like if you're into death metal, black metal, thrash metal, and stuff like that, I post my record collection. Um, and just I post music stuff most of the time on my story. And if you just want to, if you're interested more about that stuff, just follow me there. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is
And
my
if you,
first.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine.
Go ahead.
This is my first podcast ever to do ever. So if I was kind of, I don't know, not as good as my friend Splattervision right here, I just know it was just this is my first time experience, and this was a lot of fun. Gotta say, I
You
want to
liked
do
it?
this more in the future. You'll probably see me more in the future.
Yeah. Did we do a good job? If we did a good job, please let us know in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll put his information in the description. So when we go back on it, again, thank you guys for listening in on us, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.